All right, so this is going to be your answer video to the Spongebob Lab Safety assignment that you were given in day two's folder. I want you to read over this yourself first and try to find at least 8 of the errors in the 3, 4 slides I think there are. And then come back and watch this video and check yourself. I really want you to try and see what you can come up with on your own. So the Bikini Bottom gang has been learning safety rules during science class. Read the paragraphs below to find the broken safety rules and highlight or underline each one. How many can you find? SpongeBob, Patrick, and Gary were thrilled when Mr. Krabs gave their teacher a chemistry set. Mr. Krabs warned them to be careful and reminded them to follow the safety rules they had learned in science class. The teacher passed out the materials and provided each person with an experiment book. SpongeBob and Gary flipped through the book and decided to test the properties of a mystery substance. Now, if you said that one was wrong, I will accept that one because they weren't given those instructions, so technically that is against the rules. Since the teacher did not tell them to wear the safety goggles, they left them on the table. Now, that right there is definitely a problem. That's an error. If there's goggles out on the table, that means they're meant to be used, and you should wear them. SpongeBob lit the Bunsen burner. Again, that one's kind of sketchy. If you said that one was wrong, I will give it to you. And then reached across the flame. That is definitely a big no-no in science class. You never reach across an open flame. In the process, he knocked over a bottle of the mystery substance. Knocking things over is a lab safety error, whether it's an accident or on purpose. A little bit splashed on Gary. That's definitely a lab safety error. If it was something caustic or toxic, it could really hurt Gary. And since Gary's a snail, if it's salty, it could hurt him too. SpongeBob poured some of the substance into a test tube and began to heat it. Now, this one you may not know is an error, but it is. If you have not been given directions to heat something, you shouldn't, because you never know what effect heat is going to have on something. When it started to bubble, he looked into the test tube to see what was happening. You definitely never look into a bubbling test tube. Something can splash out of it, go into your eye. He doesn't have goggles on. He could go blind. He also pointed it toward Gary so he could see. And that's another thing. You don't point the open test tube at another person. Gary thought it smelled weird, so he took a deep whiff. You do not take deep sniffs of stuff in science. You hold it away from your nose, and then you waft the air. You gently wave the air toward your nose, and you take little sniffs like that. He didn't think it smelled poisonous and tasted a little bit of the substance. That is definitely a big no-no. I am going to have some things that you're allowed to taste because we're going to do some stuff with food. But most of the time in science class, especially if you don't know what it is, you should not taste it. Well, I thought that was going to give me my next slide. Okay. Erase this real quick. All right, so we keep on going. They were worried about running out of time, so they left the test tube and materials on the table and moved to a different station. You always clean up when you're finished. You don't leave things out. Patrick didn't want to waste any time reading the directions, so he put on some safety goggles. Hey, that was good, but we always want to read directions, and picked a couple different substances. He tested them with vinegar, a weak acid, to see what would happen, even though he didn't have permission to experiment on his own. If you don't have permission to experiment on your own, don't do it. Ask before you do anything. He noticed that one of the substances did not do anything, but the other one fizzed. He also mixed 2 substances together to see what would happen, but didn't notice anything. So again, he's mixing stuff together to see what would happen without directions, and that's a lab error. He saw SpongeBob and Gary heating something in a test tube and decided to do that. And again, you don't get to just decide to do something. You've got to ask, is this what we're doing? What are the directions? He ran. We definitely never run in the lab. He ran He ran over to that station and he knocked over a couple bottles that SpongeBob had left open. So leaving bottles open and knocking them over are both going to be errors, cause for error in the lab. After cleaning up the spills, hey, good job. And reading the directions, all right, awesome. He found the materials he needed. The only test tube he could find had a small crack in it, but he decided to use it anyway. You never use broken glass. You always report broken glass to an adult as soon as you notice it. He lit the Bunsen burner and used tongs to hold the test tube over the flame, but he forgot to move his notebook away from the flame and it almost caught fire. So that would definitely be an error in the lab. All right, I think there's one more page. So I'm going to, let's see, can I delete it all at once? I can't. All right. Oops. They were worried about running out of time. Oh, we did that. Okay. Oh, I was right. Before they could do another experiment, the bell rang and they rushed to put everything away. You don't rush. If we're in class and you're running late for your next class, I will write you a note so that you can get things put away. Since they didn't have much time, Patrick didn't clean out his test tube before putting it in the cabinet. You're always going to want to clean up your materials. SpongeBob noticed he had a small cut on his finger, but decided he didn't have time to tell the teacher about it. You've always got to tell the teacher if you get cut, injured, scratched, anything like that. One time when I was in the 10th grade, we were dissecting something, and I think it was frogs. It might have been shark embryos. I don't know, but I cut my finger with a rusty scalpel. And if I hadn't gone to the teacher and tell him what would happen, I would have gotten poisoning from the formaldehyde, and I would have gotten tetanus from the rusty blade. So because I told the teacher, he immediately, called my parents, and my parents sent me to the doctor. We got him taken care of. But you've got to report when stuff like that happens. Now, notice it says insert link. That's because I'm filming the video right now. So as soon as I'm done filming it, I will insert in this, and it'll be there for you to use. Make sure you email me with questions. After you've gone through this, go do the Google form and see how well you have learned all of your lovely stuff about lab science. Thanks.